Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today it's time to discuss all of that fallout from last night's action in the Scottish Premiership. Fallout which seen one half of Glasgow supporters in the stands of Pittodrie singing champions again, ole ole. The other half of Glasgow, their fans, are talking about a potential title chase. Nobody really knows what's going on in the Scottish Premiership. It's all down to perspective. Let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We are only about 100 subscribers away from 47,000. Let's try and cross that before the new year. It would be much appreciated. Go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. Both those buttons. It's absolutely free. We've got a lot to cover today. It's a good time to be a Celtic fan. For some, the league is over. For some, there's still a long way to go. We're going to try and cover all of that alongside some other news stories. Strap yourselves in. It's a cold December's day, but we're still here. Here is the league table after last night's fixtures in the Scottish Premiership. Celtic still top of the table, of course, and not only top, but extending their lead at the top of the table to 7 points over second place Aberdeen. We still remain 11 points clear of third place Rangers, and of course, if we win our game in hand over Aberdeen, Celtic will be 10 points clear of the second place side in Scotland. In the stands of Pittodrie last night, the chant started, champions again, ole ole. For some, the league is over, and usually I like to be quite reserved and quite humble about things. I don't like to be that braggadocious way which can come back to bite you in the backside, but that's right, Rangers fans, before you start, I learned my lesson after 10 in a row, so don't start your shite. I must admit, I don't see a world in which Aberdeen or Rangers can claw anything back this season to the extent of challenging for a league title. Now, I know some Rangers fans are getting optimistic after their 6-0 drubbing of Kilmarnock last night, but we've seen a Celtic side who were far from their best yesterday go up to Pittodrie in a miserable, wet and windy night and beat the second place team without any real struggle. And we were, as I said, far from our best. And if Celtic are winning games like that, if Celtic are constantly getting results, that shows you the animal that we are this season. That shows you the way that we've developed as a team on the pitch, off the pitch as well. I really don't see any side chasing after us anytime soon. We're unbelievable at the minute. Last night's performance wasn't vintage by any stretch of the imagination, but those are the games that it's all about winning. It's all about the 3 points and the final result. And I'm very happy about those 3 points and the final result. Listen, Aberdeen have had a great season, and even though they've kind of tailed off in recent games and the gap has started to get bigger and bigger, they still deserve a lot of credit for what they've done, and credit for their performance last night in stretching the game out and forcing Celtic to wait late on before scoring a winner. Aberdeen looked like they wanted it last night, even through kicking us off the park. They really did want it, but Celtic are just so good at the minute. And you know, I've seen a lot of people talking about in my comment section after last night's video, it's maybe a bit too early to proclaim ourselves as champions, and I get that. I do understand the right to, or the reason I should say, to feel that way. You don't want to jinx things, you don't want to get too disrespectful towards other sides, but this is the worst Rangers side I have ever seen, and no amount of 6-0 wins over Kilmarnock are going to change that. Aberdeen simply aren't on the same level as Celtic, and that's not arrogance, that's not ignorance, and it's not disrespectful, it's just true. You know, one side has the might of a Champions League competing squad, the other is just starting with their new manager and their new look side. Celtic are on a different level at the minute. And while I understand that you might think it's far too early to call ourselves champions, especially I think after last year people are a little bit nervous to get ahead of themselves, you know, the way that we let Rangers back into things, I would be willing to bet every limb of my body, both arms, both legs, that Celtic will not do the same this year. We are a different animal. And I've got all the confidence that the league title is well and truly on its way to Celtic Park for the 4th year in a row. Now, some people are already talking about invincible seasons, and some people are talking about trebles and invincible trebles. It's a bit early for that. Look, listen, first of all, you've got to win the cup next week, and Rangers will raise their game for that. talking about invincible seasons, that's a bit early. Listen, there's still 3 more derby games to go. All it takes is one slip up. We've seen what happened in Ange's brilliant season where we were just battering teams left, right and centre. The last derby didn't mean much. We downed tools a little bit. Rangers got a 3-0 win. It's easy enough for that to happen. There's no point in talking about invincible seasons, invincible trebles, or hell, maybe even the treble yet if you've not won the first cup. But when it comes to the league title, I really don't see any way back for Aberdeen or Rangers. I don't. And I know that some people on the follow forums are starting to dream and they're saying, oh, if we can take points off Celtic twice, then we close the gap. Let's revisit all of that the next time Rangers drop points, because the narrative will change yet again. Nonetheless, great result last night for Celtic, a great position to be in. Some performances that were good, some that weren't as good. Some people coming under some heavy criticism, but a lot of players getting some praise. Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's stealing a lot of the headlines for his performance last night. A great performance at the back, some game-winning stuff from him. And I said during the game to my dad, and it's not the first time I've said it, you know, he's the best centre-half I've seen in my lifetime at Celtic. You know, there's no two ways about it. He's just unbelievable. Just so cool, calm, composed, doesn't let the occasions get to him. And for a guy who could have been short in confidence after his mishap against Bruges last week, listen, he's just kept going. And his partnership with Trusty is getting better. They're there to help each other in moments where Trusty might make a wee mistake. Vickers is there to help him get better and do better. And I think it's the same vice versa. I like the partnership that's building there. Greg Taylor as well, getting a lot of credit for his performance off the bench last night after a few weeks of below par performances, I would say. But listen, Greg Taylor, he's resilient. He keeps going. And it was a great, you know, his pass leads to the goal. It was a great performance from him off the bench last night. And we'll obviously raise that question again about who starts at left back. So yeah, a lot to talk about from last night's game. It begs the question, how does this team get better? So ahead of the Aberdeen game on Friday afternoon, Brendan Rodgers was asked at the press conference what the plans are for the January transfer window. And I'm sure you've already heard his responses by now, his replies by now in regard to that. And it's a good question. You know, what are the plans? What do we do? Remember, this will be the first January window, or the first window altogether, I should say, with our new chief scout or head of recruitment on the books. So, you know, there's a lot that's going to be interesting about this January window. But I think the most interesting part for me is that it's really hard to improve this side at the minute because it's so good. We are enjoying the best start to the league season we've ever seen in my lifetime. The team, the football we're playing, and the team are playing really, really well. It's just generally hard to picture where we improve, but Brendan Rodgers has already made it clear a number of times since he came through the door at Celtic. You know, it's about constant improvement, and there's always areas to improve. And even the most comfortable of positions, the areas where you think we've got our best option, there will always be room for improvement. And I've always been a huge... I push that narrative a lot, and I've pushed it over the years. And the go-to that I always say is, even at his best, Callum McGregor is not irreplaceable. And that's how a football club should always aim to operate. That's not me slagging off Callum McGregor. And don't jump to the comment section and think that that's what I'm doing here. But what I'm saying is, if there is improvement out there on any position, we shouldn't neglect it. We shouldn't turn our nose up at it. There's always got to be somebody who can come in and improve this Celtic side. And even if that means dislodging the captain from his permanent place. So Brendan Rodgers was asked about it at the press conference on Friday afternoon, and he did confirm there are areas that they will look to improve in this window. Brendan Rodgers said this, that we're definitely looking. There are still areas I would like to improve in the squad. There is absolutely no question about that. We can't do everything in the summer window. We've got a lot of great work done there, but it's definitely one or two areas just to, again, give that freshness to the squad and as well give that quality. So it's important that we keep building. So Brendan Rodgers wants to keep building and improving on this great squad that we have at the minute. Paul Tisdale will be by his side officially on the books at Celtic for the first time through this window. It'll be really interesting to see what the plans are. This is how the squad currently looks in terms of depth and registered players. So I've only included the 25-man European match squad here. Odin Thiago Holm, for example, has been left out. He isn't in the Champions League squad. A few of the younger guys who may crop in or find themselves in the team here and there, they aren't involved. This is the squad we have registered for Europe, which is essentially the core 25 players that you expect to see play playing for Celtic, and it's a really good squad, but with evident areas where we can really build in terms of depth and quality and numbers. And I think you know as well what those areas are. So it'll be interesting to see if Rodgers gets those areas touched upon and improved. But it does mean that we will need to make way of some players. I think Lewis Palma is the obvious one that everybody's thinking about at the minute. It looks like his Celtic days are numbered, not to sound sinister or anything like that, but I do think that he'll be on the move this window, and he is one of the players in that area where we need to improve. I look at that squad depth and I think of the wings. I've said this so many times in the channel recently, that the right wing, the left wing, if Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn were to somehow get simultaneously injured, we're not in a great position when it comes to the wingers that we have at our disposal. So that is certainly an area where we need to improve. And Lewis Palma might be one of those guys that makes way for someone else to come in. And where we can bring in a much better player than Lewis Palma. Brendan Rodgers said this about Lewis Palma and his rumoured Celtic exit, that he hasn't seen anything on that, but he's not got much to comment on. Lewis hasn't played a great deal of late, but he's still part of the squad, and there's nothing more than that. He's a good guy, it's been difficult for him, and players have come into his position where he's played and done really well. If you look at the goal return of Dyson Maeda this year, the pressing, all that side of it, then, you know, it's hard, and Yang comes in, he does really well, but he is working hard, he's working every day, and he's well liked within the squad. But I can only pick a certain amount of players. He will continue to work and might get the opportunity as we go along. Now, that is not Brendan Rodgers confirming nor denying that Lewis Palma has a part to play and could leave in January, but it sounds very generic, football manager-esque. Click the top reply just to shut everybody up. He is the sort of player I expect to see make way to bring more quality in, and naturally that's what you need to do to improve. So we'll see what happens. But what I would say is it's very exciting to think about. You know, this is one of the most exciting periods of time I think we've had as Celtic supporters, to be quite honest with you, because we're at a point where we're just playing so well. Results are unbelievable, both in a domestic and European front, and yet the manager is out there openly talking about improving the side. How can it get better? It's going to be an exciting month, January, and even if we don't get a hell of a lot work done in January, the summer is going to be full with exciting rumours and news. So yeah, we'll see how both those windows go. Loving Celtic at the minute, really am. And final wee story for today I thought I would squeeze in is surrounding one of Celtic's younger players, one of the B-team players, Daniel Cummings, who we all know is enjoying a fantastic year in the B-team setup. He has been unbelievable. He's got 22 goals in 20 games for the Celtic B-team, including a goal against Club Brugge last week in the UEFA Youth League. He's been unbelievable, to the point where some people are talking about maybe giving him a chance in the first team very, very soon. But Celtic not offered him a new contract, apparently, and could be swooped up by English teams very, very soon. Stephen McGowan of the Daily Mail wrote this article that English clubs are ready to poach Celtic's young goal sensation, and that he has not been offered a contract yet. So it's kind of raised some concern. So the linked clubs at the minute seem to be Brentford, Fulham, Ipswich and Wolves, who are in pursuit of the player, and then also Sunderland and Burnley from the Championship. Celtic need to tie him down in a contract to try and defer all of this, but they haven't done so yet. A lot of people concerned, finally got a young player who seems to be doing well and maybe deserves a chance, and Celtic aren't playing their cards right. I would say just have a bit of patience, don't worry too much. Conversations will be going on, but it all comes back to that same question as to whether or not Celtic are going to offer him the right route for his career at the minute. It's a video in itself, but it's one to watch out on. We'll see where it goes. Right then, that does it for today's video. If you've enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. But I'll see you all tomorrow, and then Saturday for the match reaction, and then I'm off to Zagreb. So, happy days. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next time.